All right, it is 6 o'clock. We do have a quorum established. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Boone and the mission statement led by Mrs. Boone.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Chrissy, do we have any public comment? All right, so we'll go ahead and begin with some recognitions.
You want to do the mission statement?
Oh, the mission statement. That's right. I jumped in front of you, Kim.
Through high expectations and equitable opportunity, TMISD will focus on the whole child by providing a safe environment and high-quality curriculum with diverse and enriching experiences.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, now we can start with the recognitions.
Mr. President, members of the board, we have some students that I believe, we're starting with cross-country athletics. Coach Luna, you want to come on? Can you all join?
Yes, of course.
Stand over here to me. And when they come down, the school board, when they come down, tell us a little bit about your season and which scholar athlete we have joining us tonight. She can stand here and then when you call her in, give her the certificate, and then she'll shake hands with the board, and then we'll take a picture with her.
Sorry.
You run all the time, every day. Not every day. Okay. All right, Coach.
Okay, so first off, this was my first season taking over as head girls cross country coach. Prior to me, we had a legend who's been here for many, many years, Coach H. So those are big shoes to try to fill. And by no means did I try to fill them. I just wanted to do my best and keep the program going the way it had been going, just trying to keep it successful. And thankfully, I was blessed to have very, very talented athletes who showed up every day, progressed every day. We did deal with some injuries along the way that kept some out for district. But we had a lot of girls that did step up, underclassmen, sophomores, freshmen that really stepped up and helped us to qualify for regionals. And I was very, very proud of them. Like I said, each one of them really did more than I expected. Very determined group. I never had problems having them come up in the mornings or when we went 2-day practices, never had any problems with that. And all of them have great character. And again, I was very, very blessed to have that group of athletes. And to me, I thought the season was a good success. Each one of them improved from their times from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. So I was very, very proud of them. And I look forward to this next season that's coming up. Now, a lot of the girls aren't here today, mostly because they're very talented. So they are in other sports right now. All of them are either in softball, basketball, some are in soccer. So that just goes to show how many athletes are multi-sport athletes. And that's what I love about TM. We have no problem sharing athletes with each other. And that's something that we do as coaches. We communicate with each other and see how we can make it work. Not to benefit ourselves as individual coaches, but how can we benefit each athlete? That way they can progress and be the best possible in their primary or secondary sport. So that being said, today we have Carly Mata. She's a junior. She was one of our regional qualifiers, and she also was second team all-district, which means she placed in the top 20. Now, although we did lose Alice from our district, we gained Zapata, and they're a very, very talented group. They're in that Valley group that has La Feria that's always either in the top 4 that goes to state, and Zapata's always right there behind them. So we did have some tough competition, but for Carly to come in and be in the top 20, that's a big deal, especially with our district the way it is. So I wanted to congratulate her, one for coming out and one for always showing up and being dedicated just like all the other athletes we have in the cross-country program. So thank you, Carly, for everything you did.
congratulate you, and then we'll get a picture. Congratulations. Is her mom down?
Great job, Carmen.
Carl, you want to get in the middle here? Coach Luna? Yeah. You want to get with us? Get a picture.
Look at crowds. There you go.
All right, everybody.
So we got it for one more year? Okay, good.
All right, so squeeze in just a little bit more, please. There we go. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Good job. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I guess it won't make it to us. Thank you. Oh, here, I got an extra one. There you go.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Coach.
The next group of scholars, I'll let Miss Lucas and Miss Louise introduce them.
And Miss Alexander.
And who?
Miss Alexander?
Oh, I didn't see Miss Alexander.
Yes, sir.
Come on in.
Yes.
They
Good evening, yes,
have a little something for you.
we do. In honor of Board Recognition Month, we had our student council come and create, it looks professionally done, I don't know if you guys agree with me or not, but I asked them, did you guys get it printed? But no, they worked hard. Thank you to our sponsors, Miss Louise and Miss Alexander, for taking on our student council at the intermediate. But just something to say thank you to you guys and everything that you do for us and our district and our campus. And so we appreciate you. They worked hard. They actually have another something a little more personal for each one of you. So we just wanted to have you guys recognized tonight. So thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. Great job.
Let's get a photo up.
You want to come right here in the middle?
Can you guys get in the
Follow
middle?
me this way. No, you sit. You're following me like a snake, like a
You know,
snake.
There you go. Keep
There
turning,
we go.
keep
Now follow
turning.
this way.
why don't we take a few minutes and let's start with you. And if you can introduce yourself and tell us what grade you're in. And if mom or dad or aunt or uncle who's here, identify them because it's a partnership. And we appreciate that. So we start with you.
I am Rio and I'm in 5th grade and my mom's right there.
Where's your mom? Thank you, Mom. All right.
I'm Isabella and I'm in 5th grade.
And do you have a family member here?
No, she's in the car.
She's in the car. Oh,
Well,
okay.
make sure you say thank you when you
Yeah.
get to her.
All right, next.
Hi, my name is Adeline and that's my mom right there with the phone.
Okay, 5th grade? All right.
My name is Isaac and I'm in 5th grade and my mom is also the one next to
Mom.
The other one with the
Okay.
phone,
Hello,
right?
Mom. And?
Hi, my name is Kensley and I'm in 5th grade and those are my parents.
This doesn't happen by accident. Thank you. We need you. And they're getting ready to transition into middle school next year, and they'll flourish. 6th grade's a little transitional.
Not for these guys. Not for these guys.
Not for these guys. All right, well, let's take a picture and
Stand up ready one more time. Or you know what, parents, y'all go first. Let y'all take your picture.
Yeah.
I'll go last.
make some memories here.
Okay, let me take one now. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Got it.
Would it be
Good.
possible with Ms. Louise and Ms.
Yes, can we get our
Alexander?
sponsors?
What?
Second one.
Louise and Miss
Why
Alexander.
weren't y'all in it? I'm sorry.
No, yes, I was going to say, yes, ma'am. Wait, wait, wait.
You want to get in, Miss Lucas?
Sure.
Your campus?
It is, yes, ma'am.
Here, you can cover this up with
Like this
the,
All right. Here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Got it. Good job. Thank you, guys.
Good job, y'all.
Great job.
They might need help with names.
Okay.
They wrote them, they have it personalized, but I told them your name tags would be there. And y'all
Oh,
are-
That's the gentleman right there, right there.
There we go.
Thank you, sir. Denise is not here, but we will make sure this gets to Austin from Miss Denise,
I'll
okay?
make sure that gets to
All right.
Austin.
Who? Mr. Boone is here, right there.
Oh, look at that.
And whose is yours? Mr. Chapa, right here. And who do you have? We have Ms. Boone and Mr. Ariaga.
Sweetheart.
Ariaga's right here. Oh, nice.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Because you know her dad.
Okay.
He's a coach. I don't know, she specifically wanted you.
Well, you tell her.
That's Braun.
Yes.
That's Braun.
Oh, it's
I didn't tell him the last name of who it was.
Tell her at Massey, I'm sure.
I will tell her. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you, guys.
You're the next one.
Thank y'all.
Great job.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Baby. Bye.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. So you have a cutting board? Who purchased the cutting board?
It was a collaborative.
Oh, yeah, okay, it's from the print to the
All the
schools?
campuses.
And then you've got flowers,
Nice.
and then we have some certificates of recognition. Coach Boone, thank you. Mrs. Boone,
Thank you.
thank you. Coach Chapa,
Got it.
I hope you don't mind being called Coach.
Absolutely.
I love when I'm called Coach. Mr. Arriaga, thank you. Ms. Jimenez, thank you. Mr. Gonzalez.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, thank y'all so much.
Thank you. Very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for all you do.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Got it.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Is it? Lovely.
Beat the.
Now I think how can
Yes. I was just reading Okay, next item here is the closed session. The board will convene in closed session meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551071-076, 082, 0821, 083, and 084. The time is 6:13. We'll go into executive session and get back. 7:06, we're now returning to the regular session. First action item we have for discussion here is discuss and consider approval of natatorium GMP.
Mr. President, members of the board, exciting time, moving forward with significant improvements to our natatorium. This represents the bond B. We've already completed C, now this is B, and then we're working concurrently on A. So having said that, I will turn it over to Mr. Patrick Hernandez, and he'll introduce our guests, and we'll look at the GMP.
Mr. Board President, members of the board, good evening. I'd like to introduce my guests back here from VLK. We have Mr. Michael Martinez, Liliana Solche, and Mr. Rogelio Milado.
That's good.
And he's with Fulton Construction. Just to give you a quick recap, I put kind of a history in the board packet, but just in November 23, we passed the bond. Last spring, we went out for RFQs. We ended up selecting VLK as the architect. They immediately came on board with our swim coach, Miss Alanis. They brought in the pool consultant, and we looked at all the things that needed to bring our pool up to speed. We determined by the needs of the pool that the best way to solicit to get this project done was to solicit a guaranteed maximum price, a GMP. Was going to be the best way to do that. So we went out for bid back in July. We started, put the bid packet out. And then last September, the board approved Fulton Construction for to be the contractor at risk for a GMP. On December 17th, the bids closed. Fulton did their construction, they solicited the bids, and they've got their numbers. When we reviewed, or we established all the needs of the things, we determined a base bid. These were the things that we absolutely had to get done. Then we did some alternate bids that you can see in the packet, and that included, additional seating, because we've got our events are well attended and it gets packed. So we would have liked to expand the natatorium area. We also had an alternate bid to replace the lockers. The third was a roof replacement. The fourth was replacing the brick envelope. And number 5 was lighting. All right. When the results came in from the bids, we were not able to do the alternates. The base bid is what we're going to be able to get done with the amount of money that we have. So you may ask yourself, well, of course, the seating was definitely a luxury that we wanted to have. Replacing the lockers would have helped, but we still have lockers. The roof replacement, the roof leaks, we're still going to do that. In the base bid, we're taking out the skylights and fixing the roof so it's not going to leak. Now, when we do the roofing project for the entire high school, and you'll hear about that in my next couple of presentations, we'll probably do some additional work. But in this project, we're going to take out the skylights and eliminate the leaks in there. The additional was the brick envelope. There's some penetrations on the vapor barrier, and the brick ties deteriorated. So we're going to fix those areas. Those are including the repairs. In the alternate bid, we were going to tear down all the walls and replace them all. So we're only going to replace what needs to be replaced. And then the exterior lighting, that was just an option to improve the lighting on the outside. So in the base bid, of course, the filter system, the heating system, the chlorination system, all needs to be replaced. So that's in the base bid. The pool is not level. If you've been in an natatorium, you notice that it leans towards the diving boards by about ½ an inch. We're going to level it out. We have a bulkhead because the original pool was built in meters instead of feet. We're able to remove the bulkhead and use it as a containment area for the holding of the water for the filter system, so it's going to be to our benefit. Improved lighting, adding additional door entrance, and improving the seating in there a little bit. It's all in the base bid. So if you have any detailed questions, I'll turn it over to the crew.
Did you say the HVAC? Did we talk about the HVAC?
I did include that, sorry. Wes, we're improving the area and we're adding HVAC. We're going to put a package unit out back and condition the space.
It's not going to be air conditioned like your living room. Right. It's going to be like a regular pool would be. Let me talk finances. So Proposition B was for $7.8 million. We can spend more than $7.8 million, which we're probably going to do with interest money, but we can't use any money from Proposition A, which was the $151 million. That all has to go towards the items that was listed in the ballot and in the bond campaign. At the end of the day, this is going to be a $8.3 million project, and we're taking some of the interest money, which we're allowed to do, and move it over so that we can make the natatorium. It's not going to be the Taj Mahal, but it's going to be a great place for TM kids.
We'll have enough in interest to be able to cover the difference?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, for the base bid,
okay.
not for any of the alternates. Okay, you want to let Michael and
Any questions for the architect?
I have a question. Let's talk about the bulkhead just a little bit. How are we eliminating that?
So we're actually, they're gonna, you guys can be the detail, but basically they're gonna fill it in. It's gonna be like a little storage cavern, and the water, the
Surge tank.
The surge tank, sorry.
The surge tank.
That's gonna give us increased surge capacity, which is something we needed.
So the end of the pool will actually be,
So the wall will slide down to the 25-yard mark, and they'll build a new wall there, and then the rest of the space will be additional storage for your surge tank. So we're not filling it all in, we're just building another wall and then using that space for extra capacity on the surge tank.
So that silver thing that you can walk across in the water that's right,
It goes away,
We'll be gone.
yeah.
and it'll be covered with concrete. You'll be able to walk on the deck at that, over there.
okay.
I think my most important question is, will there be heaters in this pool? Because it is so cold for our kids, especially during the winter. So will the heaters be working in that?
Will we get a brand new
Brand new.
heater for that, and then the heat, instead of the gas heaters, it'll be through the HVAC system that we're installing in the back end of the building.
Good, because I know that the kids would really, really want that of everything heater in the pool, because it's cold.
So the base bid, the 8.3 that we're talking about, is what Fulton said their base bid is?
Well, it's 7.3 is the Fulton's part.
Soft costs.
Their soft cost as well.
That make it 8.3.
That are our cost?
The architect.
The architect, okay.
Yeah, it's several different things are involved in the soft cost. So you have the A&E fees. You also have site surveys. You have your permit costs all rolled into that soft cost number.
I'm just trying to understand how we, it's not a big deal, I mean, it is what it is, but when we selected Fulton and BLK, did we know we were gonna go to 8.3?
We didn't.
Not
the exact
originally.
number.
Did they offered a estimate, right?
No, that's why we went with the GMP, and we didn't have a hard number. So another way of bidding this would have been to get a guaranteed max, a competitive sealed bid.
I thought we did that, we didn't do
Yeah,
that.
we didn't go
Okay.
competitive sealed bid, we went GMP.
If I remember we had multiple conversations, and it became very clear through the engineers and the architects that we weren't going to get what we needed to get with 7.8. And so knowing that, we need to use the bulk of interest money for the junior high and the CTE center. But I felt, and I think Philip did too, that if we bumped it up 500,000 to 8.3, and they agreed with that, still not knowing what the bids were going to come in, that we could get there. That was, is that consistent with the process?
That's correct, and in fact, we bundled the CTE building with the natatorium. Fulton's is the contractor for the CTE building, and in next month or the following month, we'll be bringing the GMP for the CTE. So we did them combined in hopes of saving some money and getting a better benefit by having one general contractor for the two projects.
Because you're going to get some subs that have the capacity to work on both projects, which will lower the cost of their bid.
I mean, we all love interest. We just want to make sure that we've got enough interest to go around for all the
Yes.
extra stuff we're
Yes.
wanting to do,
The
so.
good thing about GMP, if there's any savings, it comes back to us. Fulton will give us the credit back.
Right.
Any other questions?
I know there's been, I mean, I have a question. I saw the renderings online for the pool, and it did not have natatorium on there. It had aquatic
Yeah,
center.
we can put an auditorium.
Okay.
That's just a placeholder that
Okay.
we kind of liked. We liked that, but that can be changed.
Okay. Thank you.
Ready? Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve to authorize a contract with Fulton Construction for the natatorium renovations with a guaranteed maximum price of $7,358,342. All right, we have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Motion by Leo, second by Kim, all those in favor? Carries 6-0.
Big vote right there. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you guys and gal. Appreciate
We're
it.
ready to get started?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Faster the better. Yes.
Have a good evening.
You too.
You too.
We'll see you again next month when we bring the other champion.
Be careful going home.
Thank you.
Like that bond.
I know.
All right, next item is discuss and consider approval of co-op purchase for high school chiller.
This is another big advancement, particularly for our high school. And Mr. Hernandez.
All right, for this presentation, I have Mr. Bill Wilson here to assist with this. He's the architect for this project. As you know, we're bringing the CTE line, CTE on board here soon. Our current chiller, it does not have enough capacity for the additional square footage, so we're gonna have to increase the chiller size on it. Mr. Wilson's working on the complete HVAC renovation and the roof replacement at the high school. Because there's chiller lines and everything, the package, it's gonna be a group package on the roofing and the HVAC together, because the supports for the chiller lines have to anchor down into the roof things, so we're gonna do them both together. That bid packet you'll see probably at the, sometime in March. The lead time for a chiller is about 42 weeks, and we're gonna need this chiller next October, November. So we need to go ahead and get that chiller ordered. So that's what we're proposing, is that you go ahead and allow us to purchase the chiller through a TIPS purchasing co-op. And then when this goes out to bid in February, the packet will contain the chiller is already paid for and included. And the awarded contractor will come in and install the chiller for us in next October, December timeframe. But it's important that we get this chiller ordered now, so that it meets the timeline for the installation.
So we currently have 2 chillers at the high school.
Correct.
They're both operational?
They're both operational at this time. The Carrier chiller number 2 was replaced in 2008. It's near end of life.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question.
The second one's hanging on by a thread.
Bill, well, I'm sorry. Will one chiller do us at the high school if both of them go down?
No.
No?
Actually, you're adding 55,000 square feet at the high school. And, so the type of load that you're adding is fairly significant with welding and some serious heat loads that are greater per square foot than what your current high school has. In fact, if you go back a ways, this is what we did the last time we replaced the chiller at the central plant 8 years ago or so. Because we needed to expedite. We did a buy board purchase on a chiller, and before it got here, your existing chiller failed. And we had to bring in temporary chiller at about $60,000 a month in order to keep the high school air conditioned. So because of the amount of cooling that's necessary and the fact that we're gonna have to take one of your existing chillers out before we can install the new one, and we're also gonna be replacing one of your cooling towers. And all the piping, which is quite large and quite complex, has to be done. We will have to have temporary chillers during the construction process for a couple of months. And that's not an inconsequential cost, but that's the only way you can keep this online. And so one of the other things about this, not just the delivery of the time frame, but because if you extrapolate out 42 weeks, you might say, well, that's way before the new buildings come online. That's true, but they have to have air conditioning in your CTE project while it's being finished out on the inside. You have to dehumidify that space and have air conditioners running in order to do the interior work of that building. So it's really critical that we get this thing purchased in time to get it installed. But certainly, the nice thing about it is that while we're running on these temporary chillers, we're going to be in the fall and the winter time, so we won't have the heavy loads that you have in August and September in terms of heat load. So we feel comfortable that we can make all this happen. Right now, we're still doing testing on the piping, because you've got a lot of rooftop piping that's running that chill water system, and we're having analysis done to determine how much of that piping, some of that piping we'll have to replace simply because of the capacity of getting the right amount of water over to your new addition. Other parts of the piping up there, we may be in good enough shape for us to keep, and so we're having some diagnostic testing done to determine how much of that we'll have to do. But it's a tricky proposition. It's not a simple project. We have to keep the school air conditioned. We've got these are major pieces of work, and if you've been out there at that plant. And, but what we don't want to get into is a situation where the plant's not online and you can't finish your other construction project. I mean, that's really what's driving all of this schedule. So, so much of this air conditioning work is going to have to be done first, and then so the roofing work's going to follow to a large extent. There's going to be some done, but the major part of the roofing will be done after the majority of the HVAC work is done. So there's coordination of that as well, which is one of the reasons that we're doing the emergency roof repairs, is because you've got some pretty serious leaks at the high school now, and before we can really do that, re-roof that in a permanent way, is really going to be 16 months out because of the schedule of all of these logistics of making all this happen. So we really, so I think 16,000 of that next agenda item is repair work at the worst roof leak that you've got at the high school. And while it might look on the surface like we ought to wait, the problem is you could be suffering significant damage on the interior of the building, be creating a situation for mold and indoor air quality issues that you really don't want to wait around 16, 18 months.
So when you say piping, what kind of piping is that? Are you talking like
It's the piping,
carbon steel piping?
It's steel piping, it's welded steel pipe.
Okay.
I mean, some of it's 12-inch diameter pipe. It's just not small stuff.
And then this new chiller gets us where on capacity? We have cushion, or we're bare minimum?
It's what we're putting in is a 750-ton unit.
But as a whole, where does that mark us with the other two chillers? Does that put us?
Well, right now you've got an air-cooled chiller over there that's essentially non-operational. Correct. And you're living without that right now. You'll have the ability during parts of the year, particularly I would say 9 months out of the year, to where you could probably operate off a 750-ton chiller. But during the peak load, where it's the hottest part of the year and you have the most students in the building, you're going to need both units to really be comfortable. It's not that you would have to close. I think the way I would put it is that you'll be able to limp along if you had the smaller chiller go out, which is now 8 years old or so. You'd be able to keep the school operational and limp along, but you wouldn't necessarily be happy with the level of comfort you'd be getting while you got that fixed.
And then the last question is, I've said it many times, we're not going to make the same mistakes with the roof and the drain piping and the HVAC that we hear about. All these roofs have leaks because of something, and I still don't understand it, but something we did with the HVAC causes us to have leaks in these roofs, and it was something.
He's correct. When we did the rooftop replacement back in 2008, the fire people came in and drilled all the pans to run their fire wire through it.
So we're just thinking about those things, right? Because we can't afford double work, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's criminally negligent, actually, to do something like that.
Okay, that's all I have.
And this chiller, is it augmenting or is it replacing?
It's replacing.
Okay, that's much larger
In
capacity.
fact, we'll be replacing pumps and controls and piping, inside that plant. In fact, one of the strategies we have is that, we can't move this. It'd be great if we could just move it and build next to it. Right? We don't have the space and the ability to do that. So we're having to reuse the building. Now, that said, we think you need to reskin all the metal on the outside of that metal building back there after this is all complete, because parts of it are rusting away. But that's a fairly straightforward kind of thing. And because we want, you know, we're really breaking this into two construction contracts. They're gonna be coordinated, but they're two construction contracts. We're gonna have one HVAC contract and one roofing contract. And there'll be a little bit of roofing in the HVAC contract, but the majority of that HVAC work will be complete before the roofing work really begins in earnest. And so, but logistically, it's all being driven by your CTE schedule of construction. That's really what's setting the priorities on how we have phased this work.
So the 750-ton HVAC would be able to air condition our entire high school plus the CTE building?
During periods of the year,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
During the peak load, you wouldn't want to just rely on that one unit.
Okay.
So we're replacing one, keeping one,
You're replacing an old unit.
but we're keeping one and then adding, this is the one we're looking at.
Currently, we have two 350-ton chillers in the plant. We're gonna take the oldest one, the Carrier, and replace that with the 750-ton chiller.
And how old is that one?
I'm almost 20 years old.
Yes, coming up on 20.
We'll still need to maintain the other one that's still sitting there.
Yes, it's still gonna be used. And they sequence it, the programmers sequence it till it'll run like in the evenings. We'll probably power down the big one and run the smaller one, just so we are continuously using them.
And how old is the?
It's about 8 years old.
Yeah, we put it in about 8 years ago.
So we've got what, like another
10,
12 years
out of
with
it.
it before that one goes out?
Yes. And the other thing that we did
Yeah, but that one, the one that we ran to 20 years, we probably need to replace it 8 years ago, right? Like, we need to be thinking, I don't think we want to wait till 20 years again.
Well,
where do they
water-cooled
run?
chillers, if properly maintained, can last 30 years.
Right.
Air-cooled chillers, on the other hand, like, you know, are subject to the environment because they're sitting outside, right? And all the bad things that are in the air, you know, get to those. And their life expectancy of an air-cooled chiller, you know, not sitting next to the plants, is about 12 years. And of course, you've got a much worse air situation here. All you have to do is look at some of your white roofs that are now black. But those chillers, you know, the other thing is technology improves things, right? These are older chillers, don't have the capability of running at various stages of capacity. And the newer chillers have much more ability from an energy efficiency point of view, to ramp up and ramp down based on load, as well as dealing with the technology of controls. So you know, could you get 30 years out of a chiller that's inside of a plant? Sure. If it's really maintained well, water quality and everything else is kept right, and you've got knowledgeable people running it. But you can also take a 30-year piece of equipment and make it a 10-year piece of equipment if you don't do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the variable right there.
And who maintains ours? We don't have a water treatment company, do we?
Yes, we do.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, you have to.
Okay.
That was very important. When we got it, we weren't happy with the one that was serving us. We used Sight out of San Antonio. They were, at the time, that was the best company.
Really?
Who's doing it now?
Sight.
Still the same?
Still Sight. They've changed names because they changed owners, but their stuff is controlled and it's online. So from their office in San Antonio, they notify us, hey, this is out of whack. Can you look at this? And if we can't fix it, they have somebody down here within hours. And the water is critical. The treatment of the water is critical for that piping.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the TIPS contract number 220-10601, purchase of a Daikin model WME magnetic bearing centrifugal chiller unit, the high school chiller, through Perry Mechanical Systems Incorporated of Corpus Christi, Texas, for the amount of $463,091.
All right, we have a motion.
I move that we approve the purchase of the high school chiller.
All right, Mr. Chapa, anybody second?
Second.
Mr. Boone? All right, Mr. Chapa makes the motion, Mr. Boone seconds, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0.
Another move forward.
The next item is to discuss and consider approval of roof repairs.
Mr. Hernandez?
Again, I have Mr. Wilson with me. As Mr. Wilson said earlier, we're about 16 months away from doing a major roof renovation on the high school. We've got some serious leaks up there. You were saying, well, you know, we should just wait 16 months, but we can't. We can't afford to wait. The health and safety of our students is important. We need to get up there and make some emergency repairs at the high school. At the middle school, we're slated to, in this roofing project, we're going to, of course, replace all the metal roofing. But if you recall, about 6 years ago, we did some of the roofing on the main part of the building. The pipe supports that support the power lines going from the switchgear towards the Jim Cooper, the pads, because of the weight of the piping, kind of etched in, and they shifted the roof and tore some of the membranes. So we need to get in there, and he's designed a new pad supports that won't tear the roof. So we got to get there and fix that so that we can maintain the warranty on the roof for the next couple of years through its warranty cycle. At the intermediate, we have a leak around the dome. The flashing around the dome has started to corrode. That roof is still under warranty, but it doesn't cover the corrosion, so we got to get in there and do some quick repairs to the flashing around that. And those are the repairs that we're asking to get done before we proceed in the future with the roof replacement, the primary, intermediate, middle school, and high school. Any questions?
The money is coming from where for the,
Bond. The 60 will come out of the bond.
it's coming out of the bond?
Yes.
So it's for 3 campuses.
Yes, ma'am.
Patrick, I have a question. Well, I know there's a reason for it, but why did we not start the roofing a long time ago?
Well, we try and get the roofs are expensive. So the primary and intermediate roofs, they were done, their original roofs back in 2001. About 6 years ago, we went and did an elastomer on it to try, as a cost effective, trying to delay the cost. And now we're at the point of the cycle where it's time to replace units. So we want to replace the units and then do the roof, redo the roof so we don't damage it.
So we have to wait, actually, it's like this chiller, we have to wait
Yes.
and then start?
Yes.
Because I know it's a mess, and I've had a lot of people tell me they're sick and tired of seeing trash cans on our campus, and we're better than that. Tuloso Midway's better than that. And I assured them, I said, look, we have the bond, it's been passed, just a matter of time.
Yes.
But we're gonna get on it, I promise you, so I was just curious about that, so.
It's just a matter of
first have to-
sequencing the work. You don't want to put a new roof and then have all that traffic.
Right.
And they poke a hole in it, and then we're back to trash cans again.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
So I'm just wondering, when you were saying earlier that the fire people or whatever had drilled in holes on the roof, why didn't we hold them responsible for those holes to repair the roof of the damage that they did? Why didn't we hold them responsible for that instead of us having to pay for this?
We should have.
We should, and when did this happen?
That's,
Or when did that happen, that they were drilling the holes?
that was in 2008, right when the units were installed. And at that point, the school district maintenance was managed by Airmark. And that incident is what began the steps for for separating ways with Airmark, was that incident.
We should have held them responsible to fix it.
Associated with that, is that sometimes you don't discover those kinds of things
Well, it's
for several
leaking.
years. And then by then, all the players are gone. And I mean, that's one of the reasons that you really do need to have, that's one of the reasons we have construction meetings weekly, right? So we're making sure that things are getting done as specified, and that people aren't taking shortcuts, and that we're doing getting as many eyes on the work as possible, so that we don't get bad surprises. Definition of a surprise in construction is never good.
I don't know if they had I don't know the scope of that project, but if it reached a threshold, then the district would have been required to have hired an architect to oversee that. He's our architect for this project. Nothing gets paid till he says they've done it and they've done it well. That's our insurance policy.
Well, just make sure that they don't make any holes or that are not necessary.
We're trying to eliminate holes.
So when will the roofing stuff start? The emergency roofing patches?
Oh, that was quick. In fact, the roofer given that's recommended for this is actually doing about a $500,000 re-roof for me over at my church, that they're just starting next week. So they've got people here and, you know.
They're ready to go.
We were all expecting you guys to meet 2 weeks to approve this. So
Sorry.
it won't be long.
All right, any other questions?
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the superintendent to negotiate a contract with Rio Roofing in the amount of $60,000 for immediate roof repairs.
You have a motion?
I'll make the motion that the board approve superintendent to negotiate a contract with Rio Roofing in the amount of $60,000 for immediate roof repairs.
Okay, make the
Second.
motion. Mr. Chaplin. All right, all those in favor? Carry 6-0. Big stuff going on, that's good stuff.
Thank you, sir, very much. In fact, I've got a meeting with Rio Roofing tomorrow at 11 o'clock on another project. So we will push on this.
Good. Fix the roofs, that'll take about 100 text messages and 20 phone calls off his phone.
Minimal. Minimal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, have a good night.
At least during basketball.
All right, thank you, guys. The next item for discussion is discuss procurement of property and liability insurance.
Mr. President, members of the board, we'll start off with Mr. Carroll discussing this.
Yeah, just to kind of give you a little bit more information about the property and liability insurance. You know, we talked about, the costs were going through the roof. We have these double-digit increases. But then, just to kind of clarify the procurement process for this. And it is similar to selecting like an architect. We're talking about professional services. Because we're not talking about a tangible asset, we're talking about intangible. Insurance is just, we're paying to, if something happens, you're gonna cover us. So there is no bidding to where we can go out to the market ourselves, go out to the market and say, give me a price. And then we can take those prices, those costs, and evaluate and pick which one. You have to pick a broker, and then once you pick your broker, you give that broker the authority to go to the market. And once you do that, you can't ask anybody else to say, well, hey, what price could you have got to me? And when you pick your broker, you can't discuss price because they really can't tell you what the price is going to be, because every year I've got to give them the information about this is the age of our buildings, if we've added stuff to our buildings, if we've added equipment, if we've added more vehicles, so they're going to have to adjust what they charge us for liability, for the property insurance and the liability. So there is no, since we're not buying a table or something tangible that you can touch, it just doesn't work that way where we can go out and say, give me your price, and then we'll pick the best price and the best coverage. So I made the recommendation to Mr. Van Metre that we continue and keep Carlisle Insurance as our broker. And I'm in the process of filling out the work. They're going to have a quote for us very, very shortly. And the broker's already telling me they're pretty much virtually guaranteeing that the premium's going to go down 15 to 20%.
So let me follow up on that, Leo.
Yeah.
When we brought the representatives from Carlisle here several months ago, and they did a presentation, and then we had a follow-up meeting, I was under the impression that we would go with them at least for another year before we would do formal RFQs and do similar what we did with architects. You qualify them, and then you pick one, and then they go to the market for you. Obviously, there was some misunderstanding there, and I'll take the blame for that. But that's where we're at right now.
Well, I mean, I know, and I don't know, I mean, school district insurance business may be completely different than, for-profit insurance. I know that, like in our, or do they syndicate these insurance policies, Philip? I mean,
I'm not qualified to
I
answer
mean,
that question.
okay, I mean, so it's 230 million in total value. When we get, the carriers that come to us, is it multiple carriers? Is it Lloyd's? Is it Travelers? Is
No,
it?
it's brokers. So it's not the actual insurance companies.
So our agent is farming out the
way I'm understanding
bidding.
it is, once you pick your broker, you give your broker the authority to go to, and they use the term "go to the market." So
right.
they know who's offering, and from what they've told me, and I think Mr. Carlisle mentioned it the last time he was here. Even as soon as like 6 years ago, when they went to the market, there were double-digit companies that were willing to offer this kind of coverage. Now, in the last 3 years, that's dwindled down to like less than 5. Like there is less than 5 or less companies out there that are even willing to take this risk on and say we'll consider covering these assets. So
Carlisle, the way I understand, Carlisle's our broker and our insurance guy. Like he's the broker that goes.
They're our broker.
But he goes to look for the.
They're not the insurance agent. They're the broker.
Yeah, they're not the underwriter.
Right.
Right. They're the agent. They're going out to carriers that actually do the
Right, but
insurance.
he's coming back and telling us this is the best deal I can get, and we're paying Carlisle.
The money flows through. I write the check to Carlisle.
Because Carlisle's making money off of it, right?
Well, Carlisle has their fee. That's their fee is
based on how much they charge us.
I don't know exactly how the formula is calculated, but yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds confusing to me. But
So we went to, and I don't mean to cut you off, Leo, but we went to an education advocacy, the three of us sitting here, along with Mr. Van Matry. This came up while we were there. In all of the Gulf Coast schools, not just Tolosa Midway, every school in this area is having trouble with insurance right now.
Right.
And we were assured by state representatives, Denise Villalobos and Todd Hunter, that they were going to address this for all the Gulf Coast schools and going to try to get insurance lowered in this area. But they explained it just like he did, that you have a broker and each school has a broker and they all go out and there's only certain companies that will provide the insurance.
I understand that everybody has a broker, so he's our broker of record, and that's why he has access. He, right now, is the only person that has access and can access these markets and say, I represent TMISD.
Right.
But if he has a preference, let's say AIG is his go-to, you could say, okay, Mr. Carlisle, we'll give you AIG, but I've got another agent that has real good in with Lloyd's. And each agent should have a relationship with these carriers, and they may be able to when you're in a competitive marketplace, you're gonna be able to get a better price. That's my belief. So that's all I'm saying, and I know it may be too late to do anything now, but I think we need to look at it, and maybe this is for, a deeper discussion at a later period of time.
Well, the only thing that would be different is, like Mr. Amitri said, we go out for qualifications. So then Carlisle would present and I'd have to look and see, but, when you're talking about an intangible, like when you're getting an architect, they can provide examples of the buildings that they've designed and the buildings that they've had built. Every insurance person's gonna tell you, I'm gonna go get you the best,
What's the downside to doing RFQs? I mean, if we're trying we're in a budget crisis.
There's no downsides, but based upon the information I had, I made the recommendation to Mr. Van Matry that we stick with Carlisle.
Yeah, no, I'm not doubting I don't want you to feel like I'm questioning you.
Right, no.
I'm just saying, in the future, we gotta get really creative, because if RFQs are the way to go and we find, maybe there are 5. So far, we're only looking at 1.
No, all that would do, brokers, I'm not sure how many brokers are out there.
So then how did you pick this one?
Well, it's the
It's
one
just the
we-
relationship
Well,
form.
I've been using since I've been. since before
There's
I-
also another service that they provide that I really wasn't aware of. And they ensure that we're doing what we need to do to upkeep our roofs and our buildings. Otherwise, they won't pay if there's a claim. So I don't know how often they provide those auditing.
Coordinates that with them.
Every 2 years that they randomly select facilities to come inspect.
To make sure that we're.
And don't get me wrong, I mean, I'm rooting for him. He's a local guy. I just think if we have a competitive process, my interests lie with TMISD and what our bottom line is. And I know yours is too, and I know everybody here is, but I just think if we can position ourselves where we can get the best price and the best service, that's what I'm concerned with.
We're going to look at that next year, right?
Yes, we will definitely do RFQs next year.
So I have a question. So the district expects to see approximately 15 to 20% reduction in cost. How in the world is that possible?
When everything's going up.
I don't know the answer to that because, the same way, it makes a little bit more sense when they explain the double-digit increases, because then, I don't know, you'll see the map, they'll show all the disasters that have happened in the country, hurricanes, fires, all this stuff. And so, and then we're also, they'll tell you it's a global thing, something that happened on the other side of the world has an impact on these carriers, these underwriters, and these people that are willing to take on this risk. So
you would think
it
that
does
with
seem
what's going on in California.
Right.
Would make, but he's told us that we're gonna get significant savings on this plan. We'll see that in February?
Well,
because this was, we discussed this last year.
Yes.
If I can just make a comment, Brian, this is what was presented, I think, in August, I wasn't at that meeting, but we're moving our loss limit amount from 50 million to 25 million. So I think that's the catalyst for the decrease in premium.
No, I think, there's an overall decrease.
Well, it has to be.
There's an overall decrease, but I will have those parameters about what our coverage is, what our, all those factors. It's like if we, because we talked about several things. We talked about if we increase or decrease, basically, I don't want to call it the deductible, but you're basically going a little bit riskier and saying the price will go down because of these parameters. And then we also, looked at the thing about, well, if, we'll look at the athletic stuff, we'll look at certain things and take those values off.
Carve that out.
And not consider that in when we're going out.
So your total insurable value will be a lot less.
Right, but we're still gonna look at all those options, but,
But I don't think, Philip, the initial decrease, anticipated decrease, was doing those radical deductions.
It's not. I'm going on the good faith word of Mr. Carlisle, but this is the trend. Everybody in this area is seeing this, and how they know that, because Mr. Carlisle, he predicted this back before October.
So the market's soft.
That this market, these prices are gonna go down. How, and of course, that was before California, but he assured me, even with what's just happened in California, this is what they're doing. And so, that's where we are. I will bring the options that say if we do these other things to, it exposes ourselves, but it brings the price down. I'll still have those options, but, it's like the overall decrease of basically whatever our premium was last year and what he's predicting our premium is gonna be this year, is gonna be in that range.
How long have you been with TMISD, Philip?
15 years.
Okay, in your 15 years, what is the largest single loss that you've seen that
We have never filed a claim.
We've never
We've never filed a property claim, only, we've done some automobile claims, but we have never done a property damage to a building or.
No damage during Harvey?
It was the
We had one-
goalpost and
It
the
didn't,
fence.
it didn't meet the goalpost.
Imagine that.
But we were so lucky that that was nowhere near any kind of deductible.
I also think that it's good business to do an RFQ next year because of the additional square footage that we're adding with the 54,000 square feet of CTE and 168,000 square feet for the junior high to get another set of eyes on there.
What was our percentage increase last year? Because it went up last year. Do you remember the percentage increase?
It was 2.3 million.
I want to say
It was a lot.
I want to say it was about 13%.
So if this is true, we're actually going to go below that.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. What we need from Austin is, right now with foundation funding, we get what they call a mid-school adjustment, which gives us additional money. We need an insurance adjustment for coastal school districts that are paying through the nose. I mean, other school districts in central Texas, San Antonio area, pay a small percentage of what we do. And we don't get any help from the state.
Well, there's a lot of people advocating for that.
If we could get that and we could get enrollment funding, we would be whole.
Any other questions? Thank
That
you
was
for
just
Philip.
discussion only.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Philip. All right, next item is to discuss and consider approval of the 2025-2026 TM academic calendar, option C.
Mr. President, members of the board, if you will remember, we brought forth two options, and we had significant concerns. Ms. Moody took on the responsibility of bringing back through extensive collaboration, option C for your review. Mrs. Moody?
Well, took it on as we were in a meeting. You just put something in?
Not how. Please don't.
Gladly.
She's teasing.
I am teasing completely.
Thank you.
But actually, the majority of the work was done by Mr. Gabe, Mr. Alvarado, and Miss Audius. They pulled both their student groups, their leadership student groups. As soon as we had the meeting, we all had a discussion about, how we could make it better. We also had quite a bit of discussion about the calendar process in general, which Dr. Schaub and I both sat in on that process, but were not a part of the leadership of that process. And overwhelmingly in those meetings, the consensus was we want to build a compromise of what this school wants and what this school wants. But because the parameters of how it had been instituted and how it had started, it was you have to pick one or the other. So I think what we've done is fine tune the process for coming years so that we won't have to get to this point in things. But I do think that with the students' input from their leadership teams, as well as Mr. Van Maitre's student leadership teams, and then we talked to the majority of the administrators, and then just reflecting on those meetings as well, taking on what people liked from this one, what they didn't like from this one, and then kind of merging that together. So you should have in your packet this chart here that kind of outlines the differences. Some of the major differences, we did get back those holidays in calendar C, and I realize that hasn't been approved, but you guys have already heard about A and B, so I'm just going to predominantly talk about C. We did get back those two holidays, and then we were also able to keep the December 19th date that the staff really wanted. It is going to be considered a staff work day, but there's going to be some flexibility in how that day is run according to the campus administrators. So while it's not necessarily a complete vacation day for staff, it will be a little bit less stressful, a little bit more on our way to vacation time. So a little bit of a compromise there as well. A big thing, we did drop to 177 student days because in this calendar, we gave back the full week for livestock show. we did an analysis of the attendance for those 2 days, and it was significantly lower than the other attendance days. And so we gave those 2 days back to staff and students. Consequently, though, we couldn't find 178th day of school. We were able to find the 177 that we would have regained, but so we did drop to 177, but we did not lose, we only lost 1 day of instruction from the end of the semester, the second semester, which is a shorter semester in general. Staff development days, we did give 10 staff development days instead of the 9 in the others, and we did that by starting school 1 day earlier. And where did I get that other staff development day from? Oh, December 19th, we turned that into a staff development day. And then we are going to have 2 scheduled early release days. One is the homecoming parade, which is on A and B. We had the wrong, not the wrong date, but the game with Hidalgo, I believe, is going to be our homecoming, and that is actually October 9th. So that's one change there. And then the last day of school was scheduled to be a full day of school. We're going to do a half day of school so that we can do some staff things with our staff and celebrate our staff as they finish out a school year. And then, of course, the full week of livestock show. But that's really the meat and potatoes of it. But we really did try to look at what people appreciated about one and what they didn't appreciate, and try to come up with a good compromise. So calendar C is what you see there.
So since there wasn't any kind of voting, I didn't want the staff to not be cognizant of what I was taking to you tonight. So I sent this out to the staff early last week and got several positive statements, no negative. It's not any kind of scientific, but there wasn't any glaring angst that, I don't know, we have our principals here. Did y'all hear anything? We have 2 of them. No?
They seem their main concern is knowing what those days are now so they can make preparations. And they're not taking off, not scheduling a cruise now or some kind of good family event so they can schedule it and not miss work.
Well, it would be, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It would be great if we could just get a calendar and stick to it, because it makes it easier for all the intercessions and for all the parents and the teachers to plan trips like that and not have to be like, oh, I can't plan this one yet because this calendar hasn't been approved yet. I know the calendar has to be approved every year, but at least if we could stick with one, I feel like we'd bounce all over the place with calendars.
What I think I would recommend we do is next year, we do a 2-year calendar.
And I think now that we've refined that process a little bit more and we can be a little more collaborative in compromising in those discussions, I don't think people will be opposed to a 2-year calendar. We did ask staff last year if they wanted to do this current year's calendar for 2 years, and they all came back and said no because they weren't sure about how livestock show was going to go. And that was their big bone of contention. Well, we don't want to commit to this for 2 years because it may go poorly. And so we began the calendar process again. But I think now that we've had this opportunity, I do think that staff would be willing to approve a 2-year calendar. I forgot to mention too, the other thing that we did do, and this was based on students, was we did move that intercession in October to actual Halloween. The students really wanted to have their Halloween off as an intercession. And so we did move that back down to accommodate the students.
Well, kudos to y'all. I think this calendar looks great.
I know, I like this calendar.
There have been some kids that are like, well, the 4 days in January, that's crazy. But we weren't able to add 4 more additional instructional days without going into June. Because we didn't want to add 4 more to the fall semester because that semester is already about 15 days heavier than this spring. So those 4 days would have needed to be added somewhere else in this spring. And short of using an entire intercession somewhere else, there was just no way to add those 4 days back in somewhere. So.
We appreciate the extra effort on that.
Really, the principals were they held the meeting with the students, which are so enlightening. And then Mr. Van Matry's team also met, and we got to talk to them about it too. And the other thing that they were really concerned about was starting on a Thursday. They did not want to start on a Thursday. They wanted to start on a Wednesday, so we moved it to Wednesday. But I think we came up with a pretty decent compromise.
Awesome.
I'm with the kids. I like a Wednesday instead of a Thursday. I like that.
And I like having Good Friday off.
I do too.
We have to have that.
Yes.
All right, any other questions, conversation?
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve calendar option C, which is a composite of both calendar A and B as presented.
All right, do I have a motion?
I like that one.
Second.
I'll second
Mr.
it.
Chapa?
I'll second.
All right, motion by Leo, second by Mr. Chapa. All those in favor? Carry 6-0. All right, thank you for your hard work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item for discussion is discuss and consider approval of the 2024-2026 innovative course.
Miss Moody, let's do barbering.
Okay. So you'll see on the, and I wanted to point this out because it's not a typo. You'll see on the subject that it does say 23 through 25 TEA approved. I wanted you guys to have what we were going by in previous years. This TEA approved list is from 23 through 25, and so we're using that TEA list because it still applies to continue using our innovative courses. So you have, what you'll see is 24, 25, but it's really 23, 20 through 25. And then, so TEA does a cycle of approved state-coded innovative courses. And they base that on the CTE workplace. There's a study that comes out that says high growth, high wage employment opportunities by your region. And then they put out courses that would align to high school classes that would encourage students to go into those high growth, high wage opportunities, predominantly through CTE. So that list is the long list. Now, what we did last year is we approved essentially the use of the long list, like whatever TEA had approved. But I wanted to point out the classes that we are going to be using from the TEA list that are new to us. So we've decided to switch BIM 2 and the business pathway to entrepreneurship, which is a small business model where they learn all of the aspects of implementing a new business. So you'll see we have entrepreneurship 1 and 2 as new approved. Of course, mind you, these are all from the TEA list already. They've already been approved by TEA, but we're just implementing these 4 new ones. So that's our both entrepreneurship 1 and entrepreneurship 2. Those will replace, entrepreneurship 1 will replace BIM 2, and entrepreneurship 2 will be our business law. Very similar TEKS, but more of a well-rounded look at business ownership and implementing new businesses. Our practicum for that course, you guys had previously approved, which is a practicum in entrepreneurship, and that can apply to many of our CTE pathways. So a welder could take a practicum of entrepreneurship because they're going to build their own welding business. So that had already been approved. So we're just now switching the business classes to align with that entrepreneurship opportunity. And then the other 2 big ones are Barbering 1 and 2. Barbering 1 is part of our Coastal Bend College. It's a new course that was added by Coastal Bend College for our students so that they can have the option to become barbers or full-fledged cosmetologists. And so we're asking that you guys approve the use of Barbering 1 and Barbering 2 so that if we have the opportunity to teach full barbering, that we can begin teaching that. Right now we have Barbering 1 as an option, as a course that all of our girls took this year and they will take it next year. We don't currently have a Barbering 2, but in case we had the opportunity to use it, we wanted to be able to use that. So those are the 4 courses that are from the TEA approved list, but that will be new to TMISD that need your approval.
So we're only adding 4 new ones?
4 new ones.
Okay.
And really, you guys approved those last year when we discussed the TEA approved list, but I feel like it should be on the books somewhere that these are the 4 that we're using, so that everything is very above board and clear and transparent, and we're doing the things that we're doing for the reasons that we're doing them.
All right. Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the list of innovative courses to be offered to Tolosa Midway High School students for the 24 through 26 school years.
All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the list of innovative courses to be offered at Tolosa Midway High School students for the 24 through 26 school year.
All right, Boone makes the motion. Second? Monty? All right, so Boone made the motion, Monty second. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you for that. Next item up is the update, the SARS repayment. SARS repayment.
Mr. President, members of the board, if you'll recall, 2 or 3 weeks ago in Connections, I gave you some information on some bad news from a 2011 audit. Is that the right year, 2011?
Yeah.
That the federal government was asking school districts in Texas to pay back. And I elaborated that Mr. Carroll would give you some additional specific information on that cost, that it's not budgeted, and he's doing it right now. Mr. Carroll?
It's correct, like Mr. Dimitri said, this is part of the, if you remember, the federal government has had a problem with how the state of Texas was handling this program since 2011, but none of the districts knew about this problem until this time last year. And that's when I came to you and said, they changed the rules, how they calculate our SHARs. We were supposed to get this much money, and they're only gonna give us this much. And it was hundreds of thousands of dollars less that I had budgeted, and it evaporated. And so, and then also that came to light was this 2011 audit that this, I'm not speaking in untruth here, the state of Texas pretty much withheld that from the districts. We didn't know about this, and now the state's decided that all the people that were in the SHARS program back in 2011, there's I think it's over $5 million finding from the 2011 audit, that based upon, I guess, how big each district was or the size of their claims back in 2011, all those districts have to pay a price. And that price for us, first of all, they sent me a letter that was addressed to another district. So I waited.
We didn't get excited about that because we knew we were on some kind of list. They got our letter.
I knew we were a SHARS district in 2011, so I knew we were gonna get a letter. So then I finally got the letter. Our bill is $20,316.18.
Not a lot of money, but it's still aggravating.
Yeah.
From 2011.
That's ridiculous. 2011.
Right, so now they're offering me some options. I've replied back and said, well, I can do 2 things. We can write them a check for $20,000. I can have them withhold it from the next payment that they owe us. They can just deduct it from the next SHARS payment that they're gonna settle up with us. Or they said they're offering a payment plan. So I've requested, well, what are my options on the payment plan?
How low can we go?
That's exactly right. I
Can it
wanna
be
say,
forgiven?
let's kick it down the road, let the legislature meet. See what they can do, right?
So let me ask you this, if they take it out of money that we're supposed to receive, does that hurt our students?
No.
There won't be any denial of services.
Right,
based on this.
that doesn't change the services that we're currently offering that are eligible for SHARS reimbursement. We're eligible to report all those services that our staff provides, we'll still get reimbursed for those services.
Is there any
Now,
kind of-
the only thing is, they're still playing the game of, they're changing the rules without telling us ahead of time so that we can prepare for them and do the services that we provide, and how we keep track of them and how we do that. They're retroactively going back and changing the rules when it's too late for us to do anything. Even though in their statute, it doesn't say anything about that. It doesn't say anything that says that they can retroactively go do this like they did the year before.
That is not right.
They're still doing that.
No, but on the other side of that coin, I've been in some districts where there were some windfall revenue that we received that, I mean, it was like we won the lottery. I mean, there was hundreds of thousands of dollars in payments, and we didn't come up with that number, and we didn't turn the money down either. So in reflection, it doesn't surprise me that in these audits, they're uncovering some expenses that may not have been allowable.
This is what I don't appreciate.
Lawsuits also, right? There's some districts that are suing the state.
I'm not aware of that, Coach. Are you?
The only thing, well, I'm not sure if I haven't heard of anybody like filing suit. There is an appeal process. I don't put much stock in it, but I am preliminarily appealing what they're doing. And we have the third-party company that helps us process our claims, and I've made a request for them to provide all the rationale of the rules that they changed that could result in us getting less money.
Because we don't want to repeat
We're
it.
opting out of reporting to SHARs.
Yeah, and then there's some districts that are saying we're not going to do the program.
I don't think that's in our best interest right now, because we do incur some revenue from
Well, it would just be great if we could play the SHARS game and know the rules.
Yes.
Kind of helps you if you know the rules.
I mean,
Yes.
even generally, TEA says, this is how we did things now, but they usually give you a heads up and say, the test is gonna change next year, or this is where we're going. This is what the rules are gonna be next year, so you can prepare yourself and make your adjustments and do what you need to be prepared for what's coming in the future.
Well, the best case scenario is that we're in a financial position is when we build the budget, we don't anticipate SHARs as a revenue stream. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Right. I mean, what we went through last year, I always underestimated how much SHARS revenue we were going to get. I knew we were going to get it, but I always kind of lowballed it because that was my little cushion. But that was in the days before we had multi-million-dollar deficits.
Yeah.
And then I couldn't play that card anymore. And it's like, well, I've got to try to be realistic about what are we going to get. Well, it's 2 years in a row here where SHARS has shot me in the foot and said, hey, well, we didn't tell you what you could do different, or we didn't tell you that, because I built the budget based upon, well, they changed the rules. These are the new rules. This is how much I should anticipate getting the next year. Well, they've changed the rules on me again. So I've done the appeal, the first informal appeal. I don't put a lot of stock in it. I just think it's ridiculous that a state agency can do this to all these districts that do this program. And there doesn't appear to be, there's definitely not as much attention as the coastal event insurance thing is. I just think it's an unfair, the deck is stacked against us. And so that's why I recommended to Mr. Van Maintry that, you know what, next year, I'm not going to budget for SHARS at all. What we get is what we get. I think we probably need to just pretend that it doesn't exist, and whatever we do get is on top of that, and that'll help cover any other shortages that we have. But it doesn't do us any good to budget for SHARS anymore. But I do think we get enough from it that I don't think it's worth dropping the program.
Definitely not.
Because even $200,000 or $300,000 is better than nothing.
Absolutely.
And these are services that we always provide to our Medicaid eligible kids and the kids that qualify for these services. We have those kids. We already have this. We're not changing how we serve the kids. We're always going to serve the kids everything that we need to serve them. And so, and we've got one full-time clerk position that works with our third party. And so, it still covers that cost. So it's better than nothing. It's just, they're gonna continue to play this game where they're gonna keep changing the rules on us and retroactively going, no, we're not gonna fund at that level.
Did they at least give you a calculation to support their number?
Well, they gave us the summary, but like I said, I'm doing the informal review that says, okay, and our third-party company is the one that helps me request the data that says, hey, give us the rationale and show us exactly, how you changed our data that resulted in the lower funding. So they anticipate the informal reviews will be wrapped up by April. Then at that point, we have a chance to do, that's informal, we have a chance to do a formal review. I'm not, I will wait and see then. I'm not as optimistic that anything will change, because if we do a formal review, whatever we are gonna get, 200,000, I won't get that money until next fiscal year. I won't get anything this year. I won't have any revenue in this fiscal year. We would not get, until the formal review was done, I wouldn't get any of that settle up money. And this is the settle up from 2023. Because as we're providing services, we get paid during the year, and then they do this settle up process that's always a year, that always lags a year behind. So that's where we are.
Okay, you're up to date.
All right.
There's information on.
All right, next item on the list is discuss and consider approval of the annual resolution of district investment policy and strategies.
Mr. President, members of the board, this is an annual requirement. Mr. Carroll.
Yes, as Mr. Van Mitry said, this is just annual housekeeping that we're just required to do as part of the Public Investment Act. And so every year, I try to, January is the month that I try to do it, January, February. You basically have to re-adopt our investment policy and our investment strategies. And I don't, for the new board members, a year ago, because we did the bond and we have some bond money that we could invest, we did hire a third-party company to help us invest the bond funds so we can generate some more interest on that. And so, getting them on board a year ago, they made some recommendations, and so we did first reading and second reading, and we did amend our investment policy last year. But this year, it's still good to go, and so we haven't made any changes since last year, since the second reading of updating that policy last year. So this first item is just recommending that y'all reapprove our current investment policy. Our strategies have not changed as of last year, and our investment policy has not changed since last year.
All right. Any questions?
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation to approve the attached resolution adopting the district investment policy and strategies as presented. Yeah, after they vote.
After they vote, okay. So do we have a motion?
Yeah, I move that we approve the resolution adopting the district investment policies and strategies.
I'll second that.
Second, Kim. All right, all those in favor? Carries 6-0. Now we'll read the resolution. Resolution adopting the district investment policy and strategy. Whereas the Public Funds Investment Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 2256 governs school district investment, and whereas the Public Fund Investment Act, Section 2256.005A requires the district to review and adopt the district investment policy and investment strategies not less than annually for funds under their control. And whereas the Public Fund Investment Act, Section 2256.005E requires the board to adopt that investment policy and investment strategies by written rule, order, ordinance, or resolution, recording any changes made thereto. And whereas the board has chosen to make no changes to the current policy and strategy. Now therefore be it resolved that the district has complied with the requirements of the Public Funds Investment Act, and the investment policy and strategy is hereby adopted as the investment policy. No changes have been made to the policy during this review. Passed, adopted, and approved by the Board of Tuloso Midway ISD on the 27th day of January 2025. The next item is to discuss and consider approval of resolution of investment training sponsors and authorized broker-dealers.
Mr. Carroll? This goes hand in hand with the item you just approved. Another housekeeping that we're required to do every year. As the investment officer of the district, myself and Kathy Salvador in my office, we have to go to training every year to maintain the investment officer status. And this, we're required to have you re-adopt of where we get our training from. I can tell you in the last, 5 or 6 years, I've got my training at the Service Center through TASBO, the Texas Association of Business Officials. They're on the list, but we throw some other ones on there in case, that's another opportunity for us to get training to be the investment officers. We do that every December. And we're also required, we have never hired a broker to buy investments for us, but we have a list of brokers that are out there that if we ever decided to use one, we have the authority to do that. And annually, I have to ask you to do this resolution to approve our training sources to be investment officers and brokers, which we are not currently using. It's just there in case we decided to. And obviously, if we ever decide to use a broker, y'all would have to approve that investment.
All right, questions?
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the attached resolution for investment training and the authorized broker-dealer list as presented.
All right, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Yeah, motion, second. Mr. Boone. All right, all those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. Read the two resolutions here. Resolution approving independent investment training sources. Whereas the Public Fund Investment Act, Government Code 2256 requires that all designated district investment officers to receive 8 hours of investment training every 2 fiscal years supported by the district. And whereas the Tuloso Midway ISD chooses to utilize investment training courses sponsored by the following entities: Council of Governments, Texas Association of School Administrators, Texas Association of School Boards, Texas Association of School Business Officials, University of North Texas Center for Public Management. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Tuloso Midway ISD that the district has complied with the requirements of the district investment policy to approve investment training sources. Passed, adopted, and approved by the Board of Tuloso Midway ISD this the 27th day of January 2025. Next one is resolution adopting authorized broker-dealer list. Whereas the Public Fund Investment Act, Government Code, Chapter 2256 governs local government investment, and whereas the Public Fund Investment Act, Section 2256.025 requires the board no less than annually review, revise, and adopt a list of qualified brokers, dealers authorized to engage in investment transactions with the district. And whereas banks represent depository relationships and are not broker-dealer firms, they are not included on the broker-dealer list. And whereas investment pools must be approved by a specific board resolution, they are not included on the broker-dealer list. And whereas the following list of broker-dealers is recommended for approval: Hilltop Securities, Samco Capital Markets, Stifel Financial, Wells Fargo Securities. Now therefore be it resolved, the district has complied with the requirements of the Public Funds Investment Act, and the list of authorized broker-dealers is hereby adopted. Passed, adopted, approved by the Board of Telos Midway ISD the 27th day of January 2025. All right, next item here is discuss and consider the process for replacement of board vacancy for place 6.
Mr. President, members of the board, this afternoon, State Representative Villalobos submitted her resignation from the Telosa Midway ISD Board. In February, I will bring forward the resignation for your review and action. Before you are legal memorandum regarding what the board, what options you have to replace State Representative Villalobos, and the administration will move forward with your actions and directive.
Anybody?
So what, as I understand it, two options. We choose to appoint in filling this place, or we choose to go to an election, correct?
That's what I would do.
And what would the cost, what would we expect the cost to be for an election?
I mean, they received.
It was in the board book, but it's not right here in front of us.
That's okay.
I don't, I've already read it 20 times.
We-
I'm sorry, Brian.
We only qualify for two.
The two options are you, as a board, you decide a process to self-appoint, whether that's you call for applications, you interview, and then you decide, or you call for an election. And according to the statute, you have 180 days to make that decision.
And how much will an election cost?
Ms. Castillo?
When we've placed calls to the county, it could be upwards of $20,000. It goes based off of how many other entities participate in that election at that time.
Because it's a special election.
Right.
So above 20,000.
Upwards of 20,000. If we are the only entity that is choosing to have an election, then we absorb the cost entirely of all the polling places, of all the staff that are being used to work, everything that goes into it. It's our cost. So.
And this is, something that we need to think about. This is not a full term that has to be filled, that is going to be filled. You're talking of upwards of $20,000 to fill for a year and a half, and then has to go to an election anyways.
It would be at the November 26th election, if you choose to appoint someone.
So
That's
the
a lot of money.
$20,000 for the election could pay for your SHARS.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
So that's to do an election in what? When? In May, when they do the rest of the elections?
So we've got two different calendars here. One says if election is ordered on or before February 22nd, and then we've got one that says between February 23rd and March 18th, which I'm assuming is the deadline. But they have the same information in terms of this leads up to the May 3rd election.
From what I understand, you have until February 17th.
You have up until February 22nd.
Is what the board book
So
said.
the way it works is we normally get our guidance from the state and from TASB. And so when the discussion the talks had started, we pulled the election calendar because we typically don't do an election in May. It's not our time.
It's not our regular.
And so in looking through it and going through it and just trying to stay ahead of what questions you were going to have, I noticed there was a discrepancy on the dates on when things needed, but certain things don't apply to us because it's not our election time.
Right.
So that's why we had to get clarification. So that's why you have two calendars. If we were to order it by the 22nd of February, this is a calendar that we would follow. if we were to, or if y'all were to order it after, the second copy is what we would follow. And that's guidance for you guys, but guidance for me as well. I need to know when things need to get submitted. We don't ever want it to not be submitted in the appropriate timeline. And since we don't do May, it's a completely different timeline for us.
So the last time, I've done a little research, and the last time we had a May election, special called election, 1% of the public showed up to vote in this special called election for one trustee. 1% and upwards of $20,000. I find that to
How much did
be,
it cost?
how much was that election?
What was, we have to have a bill.
Do you remember what year that was?
2021.
Yeah.
It'd be 2021. And it would also vary if we were the only entity at that time that.
Correct, and we don't know that yet.
Right, that I don't know.
I remember at the time, we weren't the only people out there. It didn't cost 20,000, but it was, I wanna say it was double digits, but there was like, I don't know, like, I'm throwing it, like, the city of Wauwatosa had an election. It wasn't like another school district, it was another taxing entity in the county had something. So, it turned out we weren't the only one.
But we wouldn't know that until,
well, they never tell us it's not like there's like this laundry list that they tell you exactly how much it's gonna cost. I guess they kind of do it like how we do kind of do UIL sports. They add up all their costs and figure out how to divide it between the entities that have an election and tell you your cost. So I don't know until they send us the bill.
So when you talked with Ms. Sand's office, they weren't aware of any entity that had said, we are having a May election.
That's true. That is correct. I asked if it.
There were others.
She said, and this is what she told me. She goes, I would really advise you to wait till November, but she's telling me from her perspective, right? Because as at the time, there is nobody else, or at that time that I made the phone call, there was nobody else signed up. She said, so I said, okay, well, I mean, I just got the information from her, not knowing what y'all's plans were at the time either. So I didn't want to commit us in, because I can't, but I just needed to start the discussion with her already, so she knew that it may be coming.
Let me just throw this out. I know of a school district that I believe they have in their policy, but what they do when they come to a situation like this, they don't have a general election. They just give it to the highest vote getter of the previous election. So I don't know, like for instance, this previous election that I was in, they just give it to whoever that candidate was that had the most, that did not get elected, the person that had the most votes, that's who they give it to. Because they said they already interested, they already wanted it to be in the board, so that's who we decided, that's what we do. And it's a common policy that they have, and they never have to discuss this. They never have to worry about 20,000 or anything. They just automatically, they give it to that person that had the highest vote. Something to think about.
Well, I think it's important that the community pick. I don't think, that's my thought, is I think it's important that the community pick instead of the six of us.
I said that, I back that up. I think $20,000, yes, a lot, but what's your return on it? Like, it's not $20,000 wasted, it's $20,000 spent, and this is my opinion, for the community to decide who is going to be in the seat. I think I follow your sentiment.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can, that's something you can look up, Philip, as to what it cost us. I mean, we have till the 22nd, I think our next board meeting is the 17th, right?
Correct.
So if we needed to wait and find out exactly what the cost is.
Yeah, tonight, you can only.
Oh, we're just discussing, okay.
Well, no, you can direct us, but you don't have to. If you want more information, we can have the agenda item such that you have options and more data.
I mean, we appointed a great trustee a couple of years ago, sat on this board for 2 years. and she did a great job. She was appointed.
Yeah, but
I
there was the
think-
time before that, they tried to appoint one and didn't, and we
It went to an
elected a great
election.
trustee, which was,
I think
So-
that letting the community decide, and if we don't want to do that $20,000, then do it to the next person who did run and didn't make it, but has the highest number, of votes, because the community already did vote. The community did come out and say who they would have and whatnot, and that's my opinion. Either we go to election and we take that $20,000 hit, or we give it to the next person who was on the ballot that didn't make it. That's my opinion.
So what would be the disadvantage of taking in applications and interviewing community members that are still interested in being on the school board? What would be the disadvantage to that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if there'd be a disadvantage. I just think that if the community wanted someone that we don't want, then that speaks volumes, right? I mean, we all got here because we were voted in by the community. If we select someone that the community would say, we wouldn't have picked that person. And that's not to say that we wouldn't select someone that's got character and all that, of course.
I have
we
no
would look
doubt
at
that we could do
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
Well, so we've had, so far, this board has had a perfect 6-0 record for every single vote. I think that we can talk. I think that we are open to communicate and listen to each other.
Absolutely.
So I think that we can certainly bounce ideas off and come to a consensus. And we were all elected to represent the community. And so when we're talking about $20,000 that we can save, that could make that SHARS payment by taking applications, interviewing, that I think that the public would trust us to do that, when only 1%, most likely, 1 to 2% of the community would actually come out and vote. So I don't think that you're actually hearing what the community would.
well, that was in 21, right? That was back in COVID. And there's some impact of that too. Not that it would have been 20%, but still, I go back to, we are here to represent the community and the students. I don't feel like I have the judgment to, I feel like I'm a professional, I'm all of those things, but to put somebody that I just feel like the community should make this selection. But I'm willing to talk and I'm willing to listen, and I think, interviewing is not a bad idea.
We can take a vote on it if you want to.
But at the end of the day, the community is the ones who are the people that choose who sits up here. It's not us, it's them. It's them who chose us to be on here. So if anybody should choose who is to sit in that 7th seat, it should be the community.
Well,
that's
our
my
policy,
opinion.
our policy offers both options. That's why we're discussing both options.
Yeah, and I'm like Paul, I'm willing to hear everybody's opinion, but at the end of the day, we have to remember how we got here. And we got here in this position because of the community, because the parents chose us to be here, to represent them, represent their kids. And I think that, I shouldn't make a decision of who sits on this board by not taking into consideration what they want. That's why I'm here, because I'm representing them, to help them, help their children. That's why I'm here. So, that's just my opinion of it. I don't want to make a decision. I rather have the community decide. Or if we don't want to take that $20,000 hit, like Mr. Chapa says, take the next person that was on the ballot. So
We'll wait till November.
We don't have that in
There's no
policy.
rush to, as you said, the board is in perfectly good operating condition with 6 people. We don't want to rush into a decision just to fill a chair, right?
I agree.
But how does the interview process work? Do they apply to HR and then we get the?
No.
We have paperwork, it's similar to an election, but there's, and I say that because the notices look similar, but, it tells you when the applications will be accepted, what the deadline is for them, and then there's an application and things that go along, and then we set up the interviews.
The interview questions are pre-created or?
If I remember correctly, they are.
Is that a TASB?
We did get
Generated.
guidance on it, so I'd have to dig back.
Now, you said wait till November. I thought
We can't wait
we
till
have to,
November.
we have
I
to.
thought we
vote in
couldn't.
May.
Yeah, we have to do it by,
It's May,
By May.
correct?
180 days.
yeah, 180 days.
To fill it?
Yeah.
Within,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, 'cause I
Yeah,
think
we don't have that
we do 2
option.
years.
And we've got February 22nd is when we have to call the election, correct?
Well, according to one calendar, because it is a special called election, it's not our general, so we don't have, but that's why we have 2 different calendars, because if the board chooses to call it after, then we have a different calendar to follow.
I think we talk about what options we have, kind of get a list of options and let us, for me at least, think about it. And I want to do whatever's right, but I just need to think about it some more.
So we actually have our next meeting be the 17th.
The 17th, yeah.
So we
And then
would
we'd
have,
to make a decision.
we
then.
could make a decision at that board meeting.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and in the meantime, we can talk, right? We can talk about what's a pro and what's a con, of all these ideas.
And that would still give us till the 22nd, so there is time between that.
Right.
How many-
Next meeting, we have to come
How
to a
many
decision.
so if we decided to go through with the applications, that gives us how many work days to be able to get applications? That doesn't give people much time.
When you, let me do a little research when y'all go into closed session, and I can get more information on it.
Okay.
But if you were gonna do that, you would almost have to wait until the second date to call the election. Unless you started that process now.
So we get together.
The
on
first day is
17th,
the
you'll make
22nd, and the second date was March.
18th.
18.
Because you can't have the meeting on the 17th and have a couple of days to just,
When's the 180 days up?
It starts tomorrow. Day 1's tomorrow.
Well, 180 days
it
is.
doesn't matter, we're in a constraint with the county.
Yeah, the 180 days should be an election.
To the election in May,
Right, that's correct.
but you have to let the county know by when.
Well, we've got options.
We have
can go by
options. We have
22nd.
two
Those are the
calendars.
dates there.
Yeah,
But at the latest, it would be March what, Leo?
18th.
18th.
Right, but if we come together and we say, okay, we want to do the interviews, then there's no need to inform the county or none of that, right? Then we're on our own timeline.
That's correct.
So then the February 17th is still okay.
Correct.
If we make that decision, then we go on our own timeline to do.
Yeah,
the
either
interviews.
decision you make, February 17th gives you,
Sufficient time.
yes.
Okay. I was just thinking February 22nd in my head, and I'm like, that's not enough.
We could take a vote today. I'm not gonna change my
Yeah,
vote. I would like the community to vote on it, and not 4 of us. I think the community should, so I'm in favor of having an election. I don't know who else feels the same way. I'm gonna say it, same thing on the 17th.
Yeah.
When I come back on February 17th, I'm gonna want an election, so.
Yeah. I think right now I'm leaning that way, but I'd like to understand a little bit more about how the interview process works, because interview processes are always different, right? Because you can make them, the interview team can halo, the interview team can, gravitate to people that they feel are like them. So, is there interview training involved? Is there, different types of things to make sure we're doing the interviews the right way? There's a lot that goes into that. But I'd be willing to listen, because I think interview processes work generally. We use them, obviously, we use them in the professional world, and we have probably all here sat on a meeting where we made a decision to hire somebody. And I think that's reasonable. I'd like to learn more about it, the interview process, like Chrissy, find out what are the questions? Are they just, do you love TM? Or are they?
They were not questions like that.
You know what I mean? But that's what I want to know. I want to know, how good is this interview process?
Well, it's like she said, you get guidance from TASB. This is the first board.
Well, even we've done it before, we said?
Yeah, that's how
So
Jamie
even if we had
was
an old packet,
appointed.
I don't know if we kept that record, but if we had an old interview packet that showed the questions we
I'll
asked.
go grab
You know
it.
what I mean, just to get some more information about it, to do our due diligence, or at least for me. And then I think on the 17th, whether we voted today or the 17th, it's still, we don't move,
Yeah.
we don't change the action. So I think
And
a little bit more time,
Maybe
For me,
Phil can get some concrete numbers.
Yeah, you can get some cost numbers, right? Maybe it's not 20,000, maybe it's 10,000. I don't know.
I'm just curious, how do we break the tie? Let's say at our next board meeting, 3 of us decide to have an election and 3 of us decide to have,
I'm not an expert on Robert's rules, but I would say no action would take place.
So you almost have
But
to,
the, but the seat still has to be filled, so how do we do that?
There has been other districts that have gone past the 180 days
Do we
statute.
get penalized for that or anyway?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm cold.
I believe there's a neighboring school district that was in that situation, correct?
well, lots to think about, but I think we had some very good discussion topics tonight, and I'd be, I'm open to listen to whatever's gonna be the best for the community and the district.
So what I'm hearing is there a consensus to direct the administration to bring back any additional data, whether it be cost, procedures, and also have, if the vote is for an election, to have that language to where you can vote, you still have your options. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, we can do that.
All right. Thank you all for that. The next item here is discuss and consider approval of consent agenda informational items. First one is the tax collection report. Anybody? Number 2 is the check payment register. Number 3 is financials. Number 4 is the enrollment report. And number 5 is regular and special called board meeting minutes.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is the administration's recommendation that the board approve the consent agenda items as presented.
All right, do we have a motion? Leo? Second?
I'll second it.
Chapa. All right, we have a motion by Leo, second by Mr. Chapa. All those in favor? Motion carries 6-0. All right, now the board will convene in closed meeting as authorized by the Texas Open Meetings Act to discuss items allowed by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, 071-076, 082, 0821, 083, 084. It is 8:50. We need a break?
Yeah.
What time y'all want to come back, you think?
I just need to go.
9 o'clock? 10 minutes? That's good. Okay. It is 10:51. We are reconvening from closed session. Go ahead.
Mr. President, members of the board, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees issue a retire-rehire educator probationary contract for the remainder of the 2024-25 school year as presented.
Motion.
I'll make that motion.
Leo. Second.
I'll second it.
Chapa. All those in favor? Carries 6-0. All
Mr.
right.
President, members of the board, it is recommended that the Board of Trustees issue an educator probationary contract for the remainder of the 24-25 school year as presented to the 2 individuals.
Have a motion?
I'll make that same motion.
Second. Kim? All those in favor? Carries 6-0 again.
That's all I have.
That's it. All right, future meetings, we have February 17th, 2025, regular board meeting. It is 10:52.
So in the future meetings, I fully anticipate we'll have a special meeting before that. And
Prior to that?
I'll coordinate with y'all what works. Remember, it doesn't have to be on a Monday.
Right. Yeah.
I anticipate that would be the resolution.
Okay.
And moving forward, but I'll keep you posted on that.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Appreciate it. All right, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Oh, wait,
Wait,
there's a protocol. Who was it?
yeah, who is it?
I move that we adjourn.
All right.
I don't remember who did it last time.
Well, we're setting the precedence right now. Seconded by? Yeah, Kim. So chopped by Kim, it has to be y'all every time now. All those in favor? 6-0. Thank you, everyone. Great job.
10:53.
10:53.
Thank you all.